All right, thank you, Tom. I'm glad to be here. It's always nice to come visit California. It's such a beautiful state. I'm from Plano, Texas, which is a suburb just north of Dallas. And one thing I did not bring with me is Ebola. Sure. That's probably all you know about Dallas right now is, oh boy. So my husband's telling me, get your wet wipes out so you can wipe down the plane before you get on it. And I'm like, really? So I don't think I'll do that, but anyway, I'm glad to be here, and thank you again for inviting me. I also want to thank the great hosts that have taken great care of me since I've been here, especially Tom, who's been carting me around, as well as Yin, Kevin, Albert, and Susie. Thank you all so much for a great evening last night. It was really a lot of fun. The Realtor Political Action Committee, which is what RPAC is, has been around since 1969. So it's been around for quite a long time. I've been raising money for the PAC for almost 30 years myself. It's very important to our business, and you're going to find out just how important it is to our business. And I don't know how many of you know that you belong to the largest trade association in the world. A lot of people don't realize that we are the largest trade association with over 1 million members. So when you belong to an association with that many members, it's inevitable that we will have disagreements now and then over certain positions and directions that we take, especially when it comes to the political environment. But that's life as an association. As a matter of fact, that's just life in general. But there's one thing that your realtor organization brings us all together, and that's to preserve and enhance our business interests. We do this by supporting candidates and public policies that advance property ownership and the free enterprise system. This is what the Realtor Party and RPAC do for all of us, and this is what RPAC is all about. We put our political passion together with the resources to make a positive difference in our industry and in the nation's capital, as well as in state, house, and city governments across the country. So we do work at all levels. I mean, I know you have a lot of people that work here locally, at your state level, and then of course in Washington, D.C. Here in California as realtors, you are asked to invest in REALTORS, C-R-E-PAC. Of course in Texas we have REALTORS. A lot of states go by only RPAC, so it does get a little confusing, but it's pretty much one and the same. 30% of all of the investments that we make to the PAC go back to fight our federal issues. So they go back to Washington, D.C., but 70% of it stays here in the state and local. But more than just promoting our own business interests, RPAC and the Realtor Party, we work on behalf of our clients and our customers as well. It's not just all about us as realtors. It's not all about us making money. It's also about preserving private property rights and home ownership. By advocating public policies to encourage real estate ownership and defend private property rights, we are improving the lives of countless property owners and those who dream of owning their own home. We all benefit from the work of RPAC and the Realtor Party, but unfortunately less than 1/3 of our members even give to the PAC. In fact, only 12% of California realtors, 1.4% of the realtors of this association, but as realtors, it's an investment that we make in our business. It's kind of like our insurance. You know, a lot of the things that we buy for our business now, it's not, it seems to me that it's more expensive to be in real estate now than it ever was. Because you think about all the electronics and gadgets that we have, our computers, our cell phones, our E&O insurance, MLS, there's a lot of things that we have to pay for in this business to stay in this business. But the PAC actually is probably one of the most important things because that's what keeps us in business and lets us do what we love to do for a living. In fact, it's one of the most important investments that you'll ever make in your profession. It really is an insurance policy against legislation and public policy. Just because you don't take an interest in politics does not mean that politics doesn't take an interest in you. And unfortunately, our saying has always been, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Well, guess what? We're on the menu anyway. I can assure you of that. They think realtors are wealthy, rich people. We all drive nice cars, therefore, let's go after the realtors. So yes, we are always on the menu. Politics affects how real estate is bought and sold, and of course, the financial piece of our business. How real estate data is being protected, how real estate firms operate and the taxes that they pay, how communities deal with issues like smart growth, environment, and affordable housing. Simply put, politics is part of our business. And a quote that my dad coined many decades ago was, if real estate is your profession, politics is your business. and it really truly is. There are a lot of people, and I know in this room as well, that fight hard for what we get to do every day to make a living. And we don't even know all the time what goes on behind the scenes, but there are just lots of little elves out there working on your behalf and the behalf of private property rights and home ownership. I know Lee does a lot of work for that too as well, and we appreciate that. But if we embrace in the politics and build those relationships with our elected officials and participate in the process, we certainly will get more out of our business. So if you can't afford to invest in RPAC, I would suggest to you that you really cannot not afford to invest in RPAC. It will provide a return far beyond anything that you could possibly do on your own. One of the most powerful ways to think about the return on investment that RPAC provides is to take a look at the critical legislative and regulatory issues that we are working on today as an organization. One of those is tax reform, including protecting our mortgage interest deduction, also known as MID, and commercial depreciation schedules, and more. And when it comes to mortgage interest deduction, if they take away that mortgage interest deduction in full from us, that's been part of our tax code since 1919. And a lot of people buy their homes knowing that they can deduct the interest off their mortgage every year on their tax return. Think about if it was even partial. I mean, research is showing that about 15% of our equity in our homes will evaporate immediately if MID is eliminated. And then think about, too, if they decided to eliminate MID from second homes, what that would do to resort towns. We might have issues with resort towns with foreclosures and other problems that arise from that. One thing that we do find in a lot of cases when it comes to our elected officials, you know, they want their name on a bill, they want to get something passed, but they don't look at the unintended consequences of how it affects us and our business and the consumers that we work with to help them find a home and whatever kind of property, even commercial, that they're looking for. Housing reform is another one, specifically Fannie and Freddie, which are our GSEs, our government-sponsored enterprises. How many of you in here are familiar with the PATH Act? It stands for Protecting American Taxpayers and Homeowners, which sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Makes you want to vote for it. What's really not good. And one of the things that was in that was QRM, which is Qualified Residential Mortgage, and it required a 20% down payment to buy a home. It would take the average couple 14 years to make enough money to be able to afford a home that they would consider living in, to have the down payment of 20%. So you can imagine how detrimental things like that, and a lot of these things are also in the Dodd-Frank bill. I'm sure you're familiar with that one. But we are working behind the scenes on a lot of those things. Another one is mortgage debt relief. That is reinstating those measures that keep owners from being taxed on the debt forgiveness they received from lenders when their mortgages were underwater. And putting a so-called stop to patent trolls. Do you have any issues with patent trolls here? You aren't familiar with that? Okay, well in Texas we are, and it's all over the country. They're firms that slam Main Street businesses like real estate offices with frivolous patent infringement lawsuits. And I mean, we have given 2 companies in Texas hundreds of thousands of dollars just to fight this battle. And we are all actually in the same boat. It's the data, it's the way we use our data and the tools and resources that we have that these patent trolls are coming after us. Of course, NAR is working very hard behind the scenes on our behalf. These are some of the biggest national issues that we're working on right now, but there are plenty of others. They are a long list in a history of powerful advocacy that the Realtors are known for on Capitol Hill. On top of this, there are state and local issues that your REALTORS investment supports, everything from protecting private property provisions to fighting sign ordinances. By supporting candidates who back our issues, we advance our business. And RPAC and the Realtor Party have had our backs through thick and thin. The truth of RPAC is that it is really your best investment in your future. Always has been, always will be, and it provides a return for beyond anything that you could possibly do on your own. But there are always doubters among us. Rather than assume that these realtors don't care, I like to think that they just need enlightened and an opportunity to understand the process so that they can also engage. I'd like to shed a little light on subject today by refuting the top 5 myths of RPAC. Number 1, that we are too partisan. RPAC is actually a non-partisan group in our selection of candidates, and the issues that we battle are only ones that affect private property rights and homeownership. We do not get involved in social issues or anything else. We are one of the top 10 political action groups in the country, and of those 10, we are the most bipartisan of all. In the last election cycle, about half the candidates that received direct payments from us, excuse me, it was half Republican and half Democrat. So you can definitely not say we're on one side of the aisle or the other. And we aren't necessarily supporting people, we're supporting issues, so keep that in mind. RPAC helps elect candidates who share our philosophy and who will also listen to our realtor viewpoint, because it's very important that they do, since they have a tendency at times to try to get legislative issues passed that have unintended consequences. Myth number 2, I don't need to contribute because my dues dollars already pay to lobby our issues. Well, RPAC provides personal hard dollars we use to make contributions at the national, state, and local level to candidates. The Federal Election Commission requires that only hard dollars, the dollars that we give, that is personal contributions, can be used for direct contributions to congressional candidates or federal policies. We cannot use dues dollars for those direct contributions. RPAC works in tandem with our professional lobbying staff to advance the issues that affect our livelihood the most. And in 2010, excuse me, we had, do you know about the Citizens United ruling that was passed in January of 2010? That really affected our ability to battle the issues that we have to fight on our behalf. It was a Supreme Court decision with Citizens United against the Federal Election Commission, and it opened the floodgates for corporations to be able to invest in influencing voter opinion, and it did not change the fact that direct contributions to candidates must come from voluntary or personal contributions like RPAC. RPAC remains the largest PAC in terms of contributions to candidates, but it's dropped to 25th in terms of money it spends on independent expenditures, which are also known as IEs. And we have a lot of super PACs in the country. You think about some of these big organizations now, because of Citizens United, they can all come together, like the Chambers of Commerce all over the country. I mean, you've got to realize now we're up against that. We didn't have to deal with that before January of 2010. Super PACs and large corporations have become much bigger players in this arena since the Citizens United decision. Now more than ever, we need to make sure that RPAC remains strong. Myth number 3, my RPAC investment is only important in election years. Well, RPAC does indeed support candidates in election years, but it does a whole lot more than that. And it's the support of RPAC is critical to issue campaigns at all levels of government. In fact, RPAC investments helped keep banks out of business. And that was many years ago. I don't know how many of you were around when that happened, but banks can never be in our business. And they tried really hard to be in our business, but think, if Citizens United had been around when we were fighting the banks to stay out of our business, all the banks in this country would have come together against us. We wouldn't have had a chance of winning what we won to keep banks out of our business. Currently, RPAC investments are helping to prevent overly restrictive mortgage lending rules. They're also working with tax incentives for property investments. Your RPAC investments are especially critical this year as we work to prevent burdensome tax hikes on real estate at state and local government levels for ways to shore up their overly stressed budgets. Myth number 4, I don't have any say in where my RPAC money goes. Well, the reality is, first of all, it's important to know that 70% of your money does stay here at the state and local level, and then 30% goes back up to the federal level. Secondly, RPAC believes that the people who raise PAC dollars should have the greatest say in how those dollars are allocated. So it's actually the realtors, not the lobbyists, who have the most say in where our RPAC dollars are spent. Each state association sends its recommendations of candidates and lawmakers to support the national PAC trustees, where they are considered along with their voting records, and we do keep track of that, and other measurements of support for realtor issues. Myth number 5, RPAC just buys votes, adding to the distrust of politics. Reality is, no, RPAC does not buy votes, but it does help to provide access and exposure to our point of view. Competition for time with members of Congress is intense. A strong PAC helps us get our foot in the door to talk to these legislators, and we do a lot of that at all levels. We want to be sure that our elected officials who propose and vote on legislation that affects our livelihood are well versed on our issues and work to promote legislation that benefits realtors and property owners nationwide. That's why our relationships with elected officials and candidates are so very important. The truth is, PACs are the most disclosed, highly regulated, citizen-intensive part of the campaign finance system. Our PAC is one of more than 4,000 political action committees in the United States, and it is the only one that exists solely to protect and promote the tradition of real estate homeownership in our country. Thomas Jefferson once said, "We in America do not have government by the majority, we have government by the majority who participate." And that's why RPAC and participation is key. And another thing my father always said is you don't have a voice if you don't vote. It is kind of amazing to look across the country and how many of our realtors are registered to vote and how many aren't, and then how many that are registered do vote and how many don't. And that is obviously another way that we have our voice for real estate. I ask you to encourage at least one other realtor who's never invested in the PAC to step up to the plate. And if you are a major investor, I ask you to encourage a colleague to become one as well. Are there any major investors in the room today? If you would stand or raise your hand. Great, well thank you very much for your investment. Specifically, I want to encourage each and every one of you to participate in the Protect the American Dream Walk. I think you have a big poster over here that your association is hosting on Thursday, October 21st. I hope you will each be out there and hope you'll bring a colleague or two or three with you. I've seen the promotions on this and it looks like a fabulous event. And the prizes are great too. Tickets to the Rose Bowl, New Year's Day celebration. Wow, how can that be? I think I'd like to win that contest. I've actually been to the Rose Bowl one time. I was telling Len about that, and I marched in the parade. It was fun. This is a great way to encourage RPAC participation, and I commend your association for putting on such a well-planned event that promises to be a lot of fun, even if you don't win. The more participation we have for RPAC and the Realtor Party, the stronger our voice is for real estate. So it really does matter to your business, it matters to your clients, and it matters to your future. So real quickly, I'm going to go over a few things because I love statistics and I hope you do too. First of all, are you all familiar with CFAs, or calls for action? Yes? Oh, that's good. That might be one of the best I've heard. Usually most people look at me like, what is that? Those are your calls for action that you receive either from your broker, which is the Broker Involvement Program, or from NAR. And they literally are click, click, submit. We have about maybe less than 12% of our over 1 million members who even respond. And when you see a call for action come through your email, take care of it right then. Don't go down the hall to the restroom, don't make another phone call, click, click, submit, and get it done. And get someone else to do it too. Because when you think about it, the message that sends to our elected officials is the realtors really don't care. That's free. That doesn't cost money to click, click, submit. So please do your job. That would be great for all of us. Some things that I think are kind of interesting that I always love this kind of stuff, that the Realtor brand, the Realtor R, which is a trademark, is worth $4.5 billion, with a B, dollars, and we're all a part of that. For every 1,000 homes that are sold in our country, 500 jobs are created. The average home pumps about $60,000 into our economy, and that would be from when you list it to closing to all the home improvement that people make on their home after they close the transaction. This is probably one of the most mind-blowing statistics that I know. The net worth of homeowners is 46 times that of renters. 46, that's a lot. Housing accounts for more than 15% of our gross domestic product. There's no question that housing is the engine that drives our economy. Out of the last 8 recessions, we've come out of 6 of them because of a robust housing market. The other 2 were war spending. Home ownership is more affordable today than it has been in the last 30 years. And our battles are not all about realtors, but it's about private property rights. We don't have a business if we don't take care of our business. And did you know there's only 3 countries that have a 30-year mortgage? And that's us, Denmark, and Germany. So that's kind of interesting. How many people are going to New Orleans? Excuse me. Great. Well, good. Well, we'll see you down on Bourbon Street, I guess, right? Anyway, I always like to close on this just because this is something that it was ingrained in me growing up, and it hurts my ears when I hear it wrong. But we are realtors. It is a 2-syllable word. And I hear so much. Thank you. And it, it drives me crazy when I hear realtor. And, it kind of makes me wonder sometimes, like, do you know what you are? I mean, it's just 2 syllables, realtor. So anyway, let's all be realtors and go out and sell something today. Thanks for having me.
Real.